A Kansas City scholar records eyewitness accounts from one of the most shameful chapters in modern American history.
It was very much a spectator sport, and so children were even dismissed from school in order to participate in the spectacle that was hanging, burning, maiming, dismembering.
Why picking judges in Kansas has more to do with the classroom than the courtroom.
And we take an artistic look at the Underground Railroad.
Principal funding for the local show provided by Francis Family Foundation, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Johnson County Community College, John and Effie Spees Memorial Trust, Bank of America trustee, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Commerce Bank trustee, and KCPT members. Thank you.
Welcome everyone, I'm Nick Haynes.
And I'm Randy Mason. This is The Local Show.
You probably don't realize how much time is spent trying to figure out how to pay for education in Kansas and Missouri.
Did you know, for instance, that in Kansas last year, 62% of the entire budget went to fund schools and universities? It's so important that even the courts have gotten involved, setting up one of the most contentious fights in this legislative session.
But should judges be telling lawmakers how much they should be spending in the classroom? As Sam Zeff reports, it's an issue you could soon be deciding at the ballot box as the clash over education funding turns into a battle over how the state picks its judges.
Universal education for all is one of the key principles in our democratic society. How is this principle working here at home in Kansas?
This story really begins at a time when news was shot on film, at a time when men wore hats and ladies wore gloves. The story reaches all the way back to a one-term, little-known governor from Dodge City who was desperate to hold on to his political career. You see, if it wasn't for Fred Hall and a scheme he cooked up that was dubbed the Triple Play, we probably wouldn't be here right now.
Thank you all for your prompt attendance on what's going to be a very, very busy day. Moving on to the Court of Appeals.
This is the Kansas Senate Judiciary Committee holding hearings last week on a plan that has the legal world in the state on the edge of its seat. Its chairman is Senator Jeff King from Independence.
We are the only state in the union where the members of the bar control the process for the judges that they appear in front of. That's a problem, in my opinion, and in my 6 years in office talking to my constituents, I think they perceive it as a problem as well.
There are essentially three ways to pick judges. You can elect them, which Kansas did until 1959. You can do it the way the federal government does, the chief executive appoints and the Senate confirms. Or there's merit selection, where a commission recommends a list of nominees to the governor. And that's what we have in Kansas.
The Kansas system rests on undemocratic politics. More than any of the other 49 states, we have an undemocratic system.
Stephen Ware is a law professor at the University of Kansas. The nominating commission is composed of 9 people, 5 lawyers chosen by the Bar Association and 4 non-lawyers picked by the governor, giving lawyers, Ware argues, way too much power in picking the judges they appear before.
Not only does the current Kansas system concentrate a tremendous amount of power in a very small group of people, but then it allows them to exercise that power in a secret vote, behind closed doors. The votes of the Kansas Supreme Court Nominating Commission are secret.
If the way Kansas picks judges is so undemocratic, why do we have it? Well, it was born from political intrigue that involved the state's highest officials.
In any story, context is king, and that's especially true in this piece. That's why we're here at the Kansas State Historical Society in Topeka. And that's where we found this editorial from the Kansas City Times from January 1957. The headline is, "A Brazen Raw Deal for Kansas Justice." This is what the Times had to say. The deal was cloaked in deepest secrecy. This indicated that the participants were fearful of public reaction and did not believe it could stand the light of day. Involved was not merely a political appointment, it was an appointment to the highest court in the state.
This editorial and many others was railing against what has become to be known as the triple play. The scheme involved Governor Hall, who was running for re-election in 1956 but lost in the Republican primary. The other two players, Lieutenant Governor John McKeish and the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, Bill Smith.
Let's get the record straight. I have not broken any laws.
Hall was ambitious and loved the new medium of television, but controversy dogged him during his one term. Even his wife dyeing her hair blonde rocked Topeka. Chief Justice Smith was at the time very ill, active in Republican politics, and worried if he retired, the newly elected Democratic governor, George Docking, would appoint a Democrat. As for Lieutenant Governor McKeish, well, he was simply compliant.
He was in the hospital in Newton, his hometown, John McKeish, and was dismissed on Thursday, picked up by the highway patrol and driven back, Thursday morning, driven back to Topeka so he could be involved in this.
So here's the triple play. On December 31st, 1956, Smith sent this letter to the Secretary of State resigning as Chief Justice. On January 3rd, 1957, Hall sent a similar letter, quitting just 11 days before his term ended. This automatically elevated McKeish to governor, who immediately appointed Hall to the state's highest court, and the triple play was done.
He wanted to remain active in Kansas politics, and he may have always thought that he would come back and try again.
Virgil Dean is a Kansas historian who has studied Fred Hall and the triple play.
Staging the triple play, I think really underscored, hey, we've got a problem here. We want a more impartial, less political judiciary or Supreme Court, and so it's time for a change.
The triple play caused a public outrage. In 1957, the legislature passed a constitutional amendment calling for the merit system we now have. The next year, with 58% of the vote, the people approved it. Which loops us back to the Kansas State House of 2013.
Between you and me, what's really going on here?
Well, Sam, I think what's going on is that the current governor wants to control the selection of our appellate court judges.
John Vrattle is a Republican and former vice president of the Kansas Senate.
He now controls the executive branch of government, he controls the legislative branch of government, and he wants to control the judicial branch as well. I think that Governor Brownback also fears a court decision on school finance. And if he can select the people who are on that appellate court, his fears go away.
And there it is, the issue behind the issue. In 2005, the state Supreme Court ruled Kansas wasn't spending enough money on education and ordered the legislature to come up with $290 million more. Conservative Republicans, saying the court was legislating from the bench, were furious.
There are people in the legislature who are not, who do not believe that what the Supreme Court did in a certain case was correct. And so,
well, tell me about that. What is it?
I think that the thing that was motivating a lot of this was school finance.
Crystal Marquardt just retired last week from the Court of Appeals, and she agrees this proposed constitutional change is a power grab to control the future of school finance.
Why you? Why the Court of Appeals? Why now?
Because the governor, I think, believes at this point that he's got the political clout to get done what he wants to get done. And maybe he does.
But current Senate Vice President Jeff King couldn't disagree more. He says this is about more democracy and fewer lawyers.
So the criticism that this all goes back to school funding, out of play.
Can I say for sure what everyone's motivation is? I can certainly say for my own, this has nothing to do with school funding. This has nothing to do with any one case, nor should it.
Do you think that there has been scandal or infamy within the Court of Appeals or Supreme Court justices? I mean, has there been something that would say, you know what, we have to change the Constitution to make this better?
I have not personally known of any scandal or anything improper in the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. I think our Supreme Court justices and our Court of Appeals judges are good men and women that have done a good job.
I didn't realize this, but Kansas used to elect our state Supreme Court. I'd be supportive of returning to that system or going to the federal model of judicial selection. Either passes the democracy test that our current system fails.
There's little doubt a constitutional amendment to change the way appellate court judges are picked is going to pass the Kansas legislature and most likely appear on the ballot in August of next year, setting up, former Senator John Brattle says, an expensive and ugly campaign.
No doubt in my mind that's what will happen. There will be massive amounts of money raised and spent in campaigning for and against that constitutional amendment.
Where's the money going to come from?
It's going to come from the Koch brothers in Wichita. It'll be unlike any constitutional amendment campaign that I've seen in my lifetime.
And not only Koch money, but he says millions of dollars from trial lawyers and other special interests. But Senator King says now is the time to have this debate.
My hope and belief as an elected official in the state of Kansas is that the voters of Kansas can see through the negative misinformation and get to the valid points of the issue.
But lest you think the school funding controversy is over, it's not. It was reignited last week when the Shawnee County District Court ruled once again that Kansas isn't sufficiently funding K-12 education and ordered lawmakers to find $440 million more. That case will be appealed. The question is, how will the judges who hear that appeal be chosen?
That report by Sam Zeff. Lead funding of KCPT's reporting of education issues is funded in part by a generous grant from the Kauffman Foundation and additional civic funders.
Coming up next on The Local Show, in a week in which we mark the Martin Luther King Day holiday, we are reminded that despite great strides in racial equality, there are still Kansas Cityans who remember vividly a shameful chapter in American history, including a time when lynchings were a commonplace occurrence in America.
Before the generation of people who remember such atrocities dies off, a Kansas City scholar is trying to record eyewitness accounts. And what she's finding is not just graphic photos and consuming hate, but the ability of some of those most affected to forgive.
The PBS series Religion and Ethics News Weekly recently came to Kansas City to report on that work. We want to warn you that some of this footage is graphic.
In one of America's most shameful chapters, thousands of African Americans, no one will ever know how many, were lynched. For two sisters who witnessed a lynching, memories still haunt. 94-year-old Catherine Fletcher will never forget how her one-time classmate was murdered in St. Joseph, Missouri, 8 decades ago.
They chained him to the back of a car and dragged him up and down the main street in the black neighborhood, screaming, you know, this will happen to you so-and-sos. Then they hanged him to a tree and set a fire under him and burned his body.
Throughout the country, from the Civil War era well into the 20th century, African American men, women, even some whites, were lynched. Their bodies often shot, mutilated, and burned. Catherine Fletcher's 92-year-old sister, Korea Strouder, remembers what a mob in Maryville, Missouri, did to a black man accused of killing a white woman.
They decided to put him, chain him on the roof of the school and then set the school on fire. There was no evidence that this man was involved with her at all, but they had to pick up somebody.
Catherine Fletcher is one of over 70 elderly African Americans interviewed by the Reverend Angela Sims for her Remembering Lynching project, housed at Baylor University's Institute of Oral History.
If we don't capture the narratives now, they will be lost to history forever.
Angela Sims, who teaches ethics and black church studies at St. Paul's School of Theology in Kansas City, Missouri, spent 2 years interviewing African Americans who grew up in what theologian James Cone calls the shadow of the lynching tree. They either witnessed a lynching, lived in fear of one, or, in the case of 92-year-old Willie Matthew Thomas, narrowly escaped being lynched.
So one of them said, well, look, are we going to hang him? If we not. And another said, sure we going to hang him. And so he made up the noose, and they put it around my neck. And I remembered in the Bible, it speaks about how they treated Jesus, and they said they led him away to be crucified. They led me away to be crucified, to be hung.
Thomas was saved when a white man who knew his family showed up with a shotgun and intervened. Dr. Sims got the idea for her project when she heard a speech about lynching by retired minister the Reverend Wallace Hartsfield Sr. Now 83, he was only 8 or 9 living in Georgia when he peered from behind a curtain and saw a mob.
They had taken the man out, and they had used his body for gun practice, and then they had hanged him, and then cut him down and then dragged him through the street. And this is supposed to be a warning to, uppity niggas.
Photographs were made of lynchings, then turned into postcards.
When we think about lynching, particularly lynching as mob spectacle, it was very much a spectator sport. And so children were even dismissed from school in order to participate in the spectacle that was hanging, burning, maiming, dismembering.
I had to take the bus home, and I had to ride a bus through the mob. And to see the joy on their faces as if they were coming to a picnic.
These postcards are just a graphic depiction of the way in which a culture of terror is almost endemic to what it means to be a citizen of this republic. Lynching was always more than the Death Act. It was really designed as a way to control human behavior.
Sims found that those who witnessed lynching were left initially with fear and bitterness, then lifelong scars.
It just haunts you. It just stays with you. You don't forget it.
It made me hate with a kind of hate I had never experienced. And I hated all white people. It was a hate that was really beginning to make me ill after a while.
Raised a Baptist, Fletcher's faith was shaken by what she had seen.
If the Lord that I hear about is the Lord of mercy and love, why would something like this happen?
What is remarkable, what nearly all those who encountered lynchings told Sims, is that despite the evil and the terror, they were not only able to carry on, they were also able to forgive.
I had to. I realized that it was a burden on me. It was such a burden carrying around this weight of hate. I guess my answer was Jesus was hated and treated so badly, but he could forgive. If he could forgive, I should be able to forgive also.
Those things hurt, but I cannot allow the past to smother me, to make me so angry, and that I can't get over it. Because if you get angry, mad and evil, you look to do evil. But I have been freed from that kind of thing. My faith continues. I refuse to hate them. I refuse to hate them.
What that white man did to me, come and rescued me and took a chance, on his life, that gives me a sense of forgiveness. I forgive those people. You have to do that.
I marvel at a people's ability to not only live through what they experienced, but not to become consumed by hatred. For some, it was arriving at a point where they recognized that even in the midst of evil, God was still with them.
Their lives, their testimony, and affirmation that lives once scarred can transcend evil.
I think my faith must dictate to me what I say, what I do, how I act, how I live my life. And my faith teaches me that I am to forgive.
Even as the lynching tree continues to cast its shadow, this is a tale of remembrance and redemption, which shows that it is possible to move into the light.
Bob Fall with that report from the PBS series Religion and Ethics News Weekly.
The show runs Sunday afternoons at 1:30 on KCPT. In a week where our nation pays tribute to Dr. King and his accomplishments in the struggle for civil rights, preparations are also underway for an annual event which tackles similar issues in a most unusual and dramatic way.
Well, it's the Sterling Dance Theatre's production of Underground, inspired by activities along the Underground Railroad. The company's artistic director, Mona Sterling-Enner, may come from Finland, but working with a team based out of the Culture House in Olathe, Underground emerges to tell a very American tale.
Underground is a historically accurate portrayal in dance theater of what happened in the Underground Railroad. When you read about it, there's so many stories connected to it, and we want to tell the story as richly and accurately as possible. And one of the things that I've read repeatedly is that there was no leader to the Underground Railroad, but actually it sprung up in churches all over. And so there are really unique scenes in churches in the show.
I was very serious about doing a lot of research, and it was very interesting and fascinating. I thought, wow, like, why doesn't everybody talk about this? What an amazing story about how simple people rose up to do something great.
I love working with Mona and Jeremiah. When they approached me about doing this show, it was hard, but I just said, I will do everything I can to help you tell this story and to give you the insight being a person of color. In the performance, I feel that I'm telling the story for someone else. Someone went through a lot of difficulty and survived it so that I could be here, having the life that I have.
Dance theater is really a dance production that is meant to tell a story. It's more accessible to the normal person. You don't have to be a dance expert. You can use all kinds of physical movement, even language, even the voice if you need to. We're very fortunate that the company that we have is very skilled in dance, both in ballet and in modern. And so Mona has a great group of people to work with, especially those who've been here now for years, owning the parts, owning the shows, and understanding the complexity of what's going on.
Side of her, and it's kind of like, check her hand, check her leg is over.
I used to love performing. I thought, oh, how could I ever do anything else except for perform? But then since I started doing more and more directing and choreography, I just really fell in love with that.
Maybe even in the arms.
Acting is such a huge part of what we do. But I've worked with people who've never done any kind of acting. What I enjoy is seeing those dancers come in who've never done anything dramatic and seeing them start to figure it out and starting to see that, hey, I can do this.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5.
It makes it such a rich production. She sees things in so many layers. I have to tell you, there are things that are going on that I didn't know was going on. It's like, oh, they're doing that behind me? I didn't realize that.
I love trying to find different ways of using the props or the dancers or whatever it is. Sometimes, when you ask people, hey, what about run up this bench? Let's see what happens, And then when they do, they might be like, you're a crazy woman. Then when you see it, it's like, it just gives you more and more ideas.
I trust her. I trust what if she says we're doing benches, it's benches. If it's fabric, it's fabric. If it's fabric that's going to be a river, okay, we'll have a river.
To tell a story like this, of this importance and magnitude, I don't think you could tell it, without putting your heart into it and your whole self.
The show is really telling American history in a passionate and truthful and honest way, and in a way that hopefully will move you and help you remember the good things that we learned from a very tragic time.
Underground, featuring original music by Jay Pfeiffer, will be performed on Saturday, February 2nd at the Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts.
Well, that's it for this week's program. I'm Nick Haynes.
I'm Randy Mason. We'll see you next time on The Local Show.
Principal funding for The Local Show provided by Francis Family Foundation, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Johnson County Community College, John and Effie Spees Memorial Trust, Bank of America trustee, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Commerce Bank trustee, and KCPT members. Thank you.